तो आप मुझसे जब मत देखो यार, फिर आप कंप्लेन कर देते हो।
मैं कंप्लेन ही करते तुम लोग का।
भाई मतलब ये दो क्लास ऐसे ही बाहर खड़ा था। होल्ड होल्ड नहीं भाई, ठीक है भाई। सेम टेक्स्ट वाले को
चाय पी लेते हैं।
ये बात है का काम होगा।
यार ये सबसे लगा
जबकि हमने साइंस
नहीं है आर्ट्स और
हमारा 650 से लेकर बीच में और कितने पहले 4 मिनट में 2 घंटा पढ़ा है 650 से बोल रहा हूँ ना मुझे लेट तो
पूरा कर रहा है
अभी ये पैर में क्रैक पाना पूरा गड्ढा वाला वो सब
अरे बेटर उसमें अभी 9 बुक्स लेगा हम इससे आपसे सिर्फ एक वो बुक होती है हमारी
एक पार्ट रहता है
उसमें
हां उसमें लाइक हार्ड के
इजीली पढ़ जाता है
बहुत अच्छा बेटर बहुत बेटर बस थोड़ा सा ज्यादा लाइक
थोड़ा फोल्डर का क्वालिटी थोड़ा अच्छा लगा टूट गया मेरा
नहीं
अभी तो क्या हुआ इसका
तो फट गया फोल्डर बोलना फोल्डर फाइल बोल रहे हैं फाइल बोल रहे हैं फाइल
नहीं फोल्डर है
वीडियो फाइल
फाइल है पड़ेगा
वीडियो फाइल ये भी बोलना देखो वीडियो फाइल का कौन सा इसका वीडियो अरे वीडियो फाइल बायोलॉजी में कर दो ना एक्चुअली वो बायोलॉजिकल टर्म नहीं है
नेक्रोफाइल पूछ रहा हूं
अबे कुछ ये नहीं बोल
नेक्रोफाइल तो कोई फ्लावर नहीं होता नेक्रोफाइल नेक्रो और मेथोफिली वैसे
देखो मालूम है कौन है वो अबे कौन है मुस्लिम प्लेयर वो ये मत बेंजामिन नहीं वो बेंजामिन मालूम है
एरिया तो पता है तो दिया नेक्स्ट ईयर
मैं फुटबॉल नहीं देखता है
अच्छा
इमरान खान मालूम है
सो ये नेक्स्ट ईयर तो छुट्टी थी हां तेरे को कहीं भी मुझे पास पता है
मैं कुछ नहीं मजाक नहीं कर देख बेंजेमा मालूम है तुझे
नहीं
बेंजेमा मालूम है मैं वही नहीं गूगल मत कर
क्यों अरे प्लेयर है अरे नहीं गूगल कर
बेंजेमा 14 गूगल कर
नहीं
14 था
50 था
नहीं मैं यू
50 था अरे जरा
वीडियो
एक मिनट
मैं वीडियो मैं इधर बैठा
वीडियो है क्या वीडियो है अरे
नहीं है वीडियो नहीं है वीडियो यार आई नहीं क्यों ना
शॉर्ट कर कुछ नहीं होता शॉर्ट करना सिर्फ 50 वीडियो 40
प्रॉब्लम है फंसेंगे हम लोग
कई मिनट में ऐसे सर्च कर प्रॉब्लम है कहीं पे नहीं
ए भाई मैं बोलने नहीं बोल रहा
कुछ सर्च मत कर
हां क्रांति से
मतलब वही अगर पढ़ाई
एडिस क्या होता है?
तो है ना उसे रिलेटिव
क्या होता है?
वो नेक्टर डिसीज सब करते हैं इसे नेक्टर एक एक्सक्रीट होता है एक्सक्रीट
Good evening. Why did you go back home? You could have sat here and studied, no? Now, when you came in the evening,
Yes.
तो फिर यहाँ पे बैठ के पढ़ाई कर लेते, एक टेस्ट लिख लेते, घर क्यों गए? घर पे पढ़ाई किया, यहाँ पे आधा घंटा आधा एक घंटा तो वैसे वेस्ट हो गया। Why? All the absent. हाँ, जाने में आधा घंटा, आने में आधा घंटा, कितना टाइम वेस्ट होगा?
ये वो जो नहीं रहता है हमारा 5 मिनट
इन लोग का हो गया, इसमें से कर लो। नहीं कोई बात नहीं, मैं वेट कर रही हूँ। हो जाए तुम लोग सब की बातें पहले कर लो, उसके बाद आई कैन स्टार्ट। वैसे भी बायोलॉजी पोर्शन में क्या रखा है, तो वैसे भी बस एक दिन करोगे तो हो ही जाएगा। ये चैप्टर भी बताइए।
we are doing shower we are doing
Pollination started.
yes we started
Pollination and fertilization. Okay. This one is having Selena. The next one, you have Selena?
Yes.
Give me one book. You have your book?
No, our book, we have from the same classmate, so our book is taken.
Taken?
First correction.
Textbook also correction?
Yeah, because we have to write.
marking the question in textbook now and we write the question here so ma'am take it that
Which questions? Textbook की questions?
some question ma'am text like or some we just write
कौन सा स्कूल का कहानी है वो?
साधु
साधु 9th standard की बच्ची।
Geography also written like this.
अच्छा मतलब उसका मतलब है तुम लोग 9th standard के काबिल ही नहीं हो। बेटर यू गो बैक टू द 4th standard, 4th में 3rd में चले जाओ। 5th standard के बच्चों को भी 4th standard के बच्चों को भी टेक्स्ट बुक वर्कबुक करेक्शन नहीं होता because they are able to write correctly। ये लोग करेक्टली नहीं लिखते हो क्या? You just have to correct your textbook questions also। देखो
do this it goes to mom the staff ratio
Yes, principal ma'am.
and notebooks।
notebooks also
5, we have 5 notebooks.
Okay, fine. Now, what is it? We were talking about self and cross pollination, right? We had started with this concept of self and cross pollination. Now, self and cross pollination, what are some of the methods? Now, in this particular chapter, there are so many terms to remember, so many terms, so many words and differences to remember. So, let us study. We talk about the concept of pollination. What did I tell you? What is the definition of pollination that you will write? Pollination definition क्या है? What is the definition of pollination? Yours is Selena, no? Yours is Selena. Take out the book. Take out the textbook. Transfer of pollination. How would you define pollination? One at a time. Chorus में नहीं. Each one of you will think. Each one of you will answer correct. हाँ tell me.
Transfer of pollinates from the anther
To the stigma. This is the definition of pollination. I think we already started the chapter the other day, and we had already learned what are some of the major terms associated with pollination. What is the meaning? I think the last class already I told you that if we are talking about a plant and this is the particular plant, say suppose, and here we understand that the process of pollination is happening here, then what is this method X? Name?
Autogamy.
Autogamy. Autogamy. And what is Y? So now, when we are talking about autogamy and heteronogamy, then what is the difference?
From there, autogamy.
One at a time. When somebody has started, we will not talk. One at a time. Yes.
Autogamy is transfer of pollen in the same flower.
In the same flower, and if it is heteronogamy, it is
Same flower, different
two
flowers.
flowers of the same plant. Make it very clear. When we are talking about autogamy and heteronogamy, what is the basic difference? If it is autogamy within the same flower, so that means this flower is unisexual or bisexual? Bisexual. So bisexual flowers generally show self-pollination, remember. Bisexual flowers basically show self-pollination, but we are also going to come across bisexual flowers also develop various different features and characteristics to avoid self-pollination also. Since chances of self-pollination is too much, no, in the bisexual flower, chances of self-pollination is too much. So that's the reason many flowers do various type of characteristics, adaptations, etc. so that self-pollination na ho, to avoid the process of self-pollination. Kyun? Because self-pollination will always give rise to same varieties, and cross-pollination always will give rise to improved variety. Okay, so this is the two different methods. I talk about that there is another plant, and now in this plant, if I understand that this has happened, then what is A? What is this method A now? Cross-pollination, also known as allogamy. Cross-pollination, also known as allogamy. Then, now let us complete with this. Now let us look into the features of the textbook. Okay, before we go to that, wait. Still some few more terms we will understand with reference to the flowers. I understand there are different terms like bisexual. One of you have to give me this book. I will follow from Selena because that's as for the syllabus. Whatever extra terms all I will come on. One of you have to give me the textbook. Come here. You have Selena? All of you bring your textbooks. Bring your textbooks. Huh? Give your textbook for some time, after that you can refer. Now, here, next is we are talking about the advantages. We'll go to the advantages later. We now look into certain important features. What are some of the features? Bisexual. What is the meaning of the word bisexual flower? A flower which has both male, don't write gender, both male and female reproductive organs. Now, did we complete with the chapter flower?
Yes.
Are you aware about the words? The male reproductive part is known as what? Female, I would say. If it is a bisexual flower, the bisexual flower should be having what? The bisexual flower should be having the stamen and the carpel lobes. What is a bisexual flower? This bisexual flower has got one more word. What is it? Hermaphrodite. What is the meaning of the word hermaphrodite? A flower which is bisexual. Hermaphrodite. Then next is we are also trying to understand all major features. Now, since with reference to this, I talk about one more concept, that is monoecious and dioecious. Let us try understanding this. So far, we were talking about what? So far, we were talking about a flower can be with male reproductive parts, female reproductive parts. A flower. I was saying a flower can be with male reproductive parts, female reproductive parts. But now, here we are saying that whenever we are talking about a concept of whenever we are talking about concept of plants, monoecious and dioecious cannot be flowers. Monoecious and dioecious, they are what? They are plants. Then what is the concept of monoecious? In the reference to monoecious, the male and the female flowers are in the same plant. Monoecious. Am I talking about a flower or a plant? Plant. It's a plant. Bisexual? Flower or a plant? Flower. Remember that? Dioecious, in case of dioecious, it is either the male or the female. Clear? Then what is the definition? If it is a monoecious plant, both the male and the female flowers together? Maybe half of them male flower, half of them female flower, the plant is the same. If that is the situation, monoecious. Dioecious, either male or female. Meaning a complete plant is with male flowers. A complete plant base is with female flowers. Then what are male flowers known as? What are male flowers known as? Name. Flowers with the male reproductive organs only. What are they known as? Next, what are they known as? Only the male reproductive organs. What are they known as? Next. You have to remember all this. Staminae and female pistillate. So a female flower or a flower with only stamen, staminae, flower with only carpels, pistillate. Okay. So that means dioecious plants can either have staminae or pistillate. Monoecious will have both staminate and pistillate in the same plant.
But monoecious plants don't have bisexual, right? Won't have flowers with both, right?
When you are talking about monoecious, they are having male and female reproductive organs, male and female flowers in the same plant. Male and female flowers in the same plant.
But no flowers with both the
both. Now let us talk about the advantages. Now self-pollination we have already come across. Self-pollination is what? Now you are very clear. What is the meaning of self-pollination? The plant is same. It can be between two flowers, it can be within the same flower, the plant is same. Cross-pollination, two plants. Related species, different species, two plants it is. Now, advantages, what are some of the advantages now we are going to come across? Disadvantages self-pollination does?
Disadvantages also.
Okay, fine. I'll give you questions, remember. So,
in dioecious plant, plant can be bisexual.
see, try to understand. If it is a dioecious plant, the dioecious plant can have male flowers and female flowers separately. So, obviously they are unisexual, no?
And both reproductive organs.
A male flower, how can they have both the reproductive organs? Male flower, I said, no, this is a male flower. So, dioecious plant is one. Dioecious plants means what? This is the plant with only male flowers. What are male flowers? Staminate. This is a plant only with pistillate. Monoecious means what? In case of monoecious, male and female flowers both present. So here also basically we are talking about unisexual flowers. Understood? Now let us, once we are talking about the advantages, disadvantages of the self-pollination, now let us talk about the cross-pollination concept. What is cross-pollination? This is a method, cross-pollination happening. What are the advantages? The most important advantages of cross-pollination would be what? The most important advantage always to remember is the development of a new variety, improved variety. Improved variety. The new variety or the variety that is formed by cross-pollination is always more resistant to all the environmental factors. The process of cross-pollination always brings in more vigor, gives more vigor to the plant. The plant can resist so many different type of environmental factors. Let us read all those points one after the other. Advantages, see there, the plant is healthier. Just now we have been talking about this. Seeds. The seeds formed are always better quality. The seeds formed are always resistant. New variety. What are the disadvantages? The process is very much dependent. Now, if it is cross-pollination, the process is very much dependent on so many other factors. No? Depending on the wind, and dependent on the water, and dependent on the tree, and the so many factors. So it is not a very certain method. Not a very certain method. If it is self-pollination, bisexual flower, chances of giving rise, this flower, chances of giving rise to a seed and a fruit is quite high. So if I say that this particular flower has a chance of giving rise to seed and the flower 80%, I would say that this flower giving rise to the seed and the flower is 50%, much lesser. The wind or the water or the insect will favor or not. So it is waiting for all those factors. Here it is more or less by default happening. It's not that much waiting for any external factor, etc. What next you understand? If it is a cross-pollinating flower, now this flower has to be so big and conspicuous and nectar hona chahiye and fragrance hona chahiye, bright color. So the plant has to spend so much of nutrient in all these things. No? So is it economical for the plant? No. And on top of that, the plant had made this flower so big and conspicuous and colorful and scent, but we did not undergo the process of fertilization, nothing. So it's a waste for the plant, no? It's a big waste for the plant. Rather, the plant would have grown and given fruits more of. So when we are talking about the process of cross-pollination, plants which are majorly dependent on cross-pollination are uneconomical. What is the meaning of uneconomical here? Uneconomical means there's a huge loss of nutrients for the plant. So, resources, huge amount of nutrients, minerals, ions go in that. Pigments get lost in the process of formation of these flowers. Take this third point, it is uneconomical. Uneconomical. Disadvantages of cross-pollination. Disadvantages, which is it? 57. In your book, 56. 56. Uneconomical. See, some of these points you'll have to remember. Your book is really so unorganized. It is uneconomical. So this point you'll have to remember. Now, next is when we talk about the concept of disadvantages and the advantages of self and cross-pollination. In the exam, very clear you will be asked questions, either give reason from here or straight away question advantages and disadvantages to write. Give reason, try always to think and write properly. I'll give you some examples, some patent questions so you understand. Now, next is we move on. If it is a bisexual flower, we feel that it is a bisexual flower, so generally it should be undergoing the process of self-pollination. But I also mentioned that there are so many flowers which prevent or avoid self-pollination by bringing about so many changes in them. So what is that known as when we come across that flowers bring in changes to avoid the process of self-pollination? So that is what we are going to talk about as contrivances, factors which prevent process of self-pollination. Plants also are in the favor of cross-pollination. Why? Because they want to make resistant varieties. So we are going to understand this as factors which favor cross-pollination. What are some of the factors that favor cross-pollination? Let us learn, understand one by one. The first is factors that favor cross-pollination. Now, when we are talking about factors that favor cross-pollination, number one is unisexuality. If I ask you a question, tell me, give reason. Unisexuality favors cross-pollination. What will you write? Unisexuality favors cross-pollination.
Unisexual flowers, they have only one
type of a reproductive organ well developed, so there is no chance that the flower can ever show. So they have to very much dependent. Definitely they have to dependent. No? So if a flower is unisexual, is there any chance that it goes for self-pollination? No, so it definitely has to depend on cross-pollination. So that is the first one, unisexuality. Next is we talk about a condition known as dichogamy. The definition of dichogamy very important. What is the definition of dichogamy? The definition of dichogamy, underline. What is the definition of dichogamy? You can underline in your book also. I will just take to tell you those topics. Anything extra we will discuss. What is dichogamy? The different maturation timings of the stamen and the carpel. That is dichogamy. So now I may talk about a flower. Say suppose I am talking about a flower, something like this. This is one flower. And in this particular flower, I understand that this is the female reproductive system. And this female reproductive system, which is supposed to have the style stigma ovary. Now this style stigma ovary, and we are comparing what with the stamen and the carpel. Okay. So now I'm saying, then what is dichogamy? Dichogamy is a situation where we understand that if the carpel is well developed, mature, but in certain flowers we come across the anther is still in the process of growth and maturation.
Because of the height difference?
No, I am not talking about the height right now. Height is a different aspect altogether. Don't club things together. First of all, I am talking about what is dichogamy. Dichogamy has only to do with maturity, nothing else. I may also understand if you are getting confused because of this growth pattern I show, I may talk about this way also. Here I am showing that the stamen and the anther or the stigma carpel, the carpel and the anther looks almost at the same height, but not necessarily the formation of the pollen is all over here. Not done. The pollen are still in the process of growth. So I would say which part is immature here? It is the anther which is still an immature process of pollen grain, the pollen sac formation, the formation of the pollen grain is still not over. They are in the process of growth, but by the time the stigma style ovary is already mature. So in a period of 2-3 days, when the pollen grains are getting mature, this is almost in the process of shriveling and dying out. The lifespan is only 2-3 days, no? The lifespan of the flower is how many days? Hardly 2-3 days, 4 days, not more than that. So now, by the time I said what? They were developing, and now that they develop, what did I come across? No, they are developing. This is still in the process of formation of the pollen grain. By the time it is ready, this has started drying out and falling off. So now that it is releasing the pollen, is the stigma able to receive and show the germination of the pollen? No. But in certain flowers, the story is different again. In certain flowers, what? In certain flowers, this is also seen that the stigma is just in the process of growth. In certain flowers, we come across that the stigma is just in the process of growth here. The stigma is just growing. It is just developing. And by the time the anthers are all finished, they have already developed and the dispersal have also started. So what am I understanding? The carpel is immature, but the stamen is mature. Earlier condition I showed, the carpel was more mature than the anther. So what is happening? In these flowers, the stamen and the carpel, they are not maturing at the same time. Either the carpel is maturing first or the stamen is maturing first. So if the stamen is maturing first, then also the process of self-pollination is not happening. Now say suppose for this flower, what is happening? This flower, the anther is well developed, it has started giving rise to the pollen grain, and there is another plant nearby with the stamen. So now the pollen grain come in contact with the next stamen and favoring a process of cross-pollination here. So that's why though this flower has both the male and the female reproductive organ, but they are not maturing at the same time. Since they are not maturing at the same time, are they favoring self-pollination? Are they favoring cross-pollination?
Yes.
Yes. Clear, no? What are we studying? Factors which favor cross-pollination. Bisexual flowers. Give reason. Bisexual flowers show cross-pollination. So this is how you explain.
Protandrous and protogynous.
You have already studied, no, previous chapter? You did not study? Then what is, now that I draw this flower, what type of a flower it is?
Protogynous.
Protandrous. The anther is more developed. Anther more developed is always protandrous. The earlier diagram that I drew was carpel more developed. That is protogynous. So what is dichogamy?
The flower is protogynous.
Then
in that case, if another pollen from another plant, from another flower,
cross pollination.
Yeah, it matures, it mates with the stigma. Then what happens to the anthers, because they were immature and the flower will now become the fruit?
By the process, by that time the anther have already started producing the pollen and dispersing the pollen. The stigma has already started germinating the pollen from another plant, another flower. So this
anthers will be of waste.
So anthers are wasted, or the anther, in case they come in contact with another flower, then they also show cross pollination somewhere else. So ultimately these flowers are showing cross pollination. Ultimately the flowers are showing cross pollination. So this is dichogamitic in your textbook, very, very important, a concept known as dichogamy. Now, what is self-sterility? What is self-sterility? Let us understand the third condition. What is self-sterility? Sterility means sterile. When we are talking about sterility, here I talk about two flowers. Self-sterility or condition. Here I talk about two flowers. This particular flower has the carpel and this particular flower has the anther. And I talk about another flower and this flower also has got the carpel and this flower has the anther. Now what's happening here is in both these flowers A and B, reproductive organs both are there. Carpel also there, stamen also there, and they are more or less maturing also. But somewhere there is a problem either with the stamen or with the carpel. So what is happening? The carpel is growing for a particular period of time, but after some time in the ovary, the ovules are not getting mature. The organ is there, but the specialized reproductive cells cannot be formed. That is sterility. What about this side? The anther is growing, or maybe the anther is fully functional. Let me talk about another situation. Here, the anther is growing, but after some time, they cannot give rise to pollen grain at all. Initially, they were growing, the filament growing, and the lobules and everything forming. But after some time, the formation of the pollen cannot take place. So, what is happening? The male reproductive organ is there, but gametes cannot be formed. The male reproductive organ is there, but gametes cannot be formed. The female reproductive organ is there, but gametes cannot be formed. That is what is called sterility. So now, when we are talking about this pollen, now starts dispersing, comes in contact with this stigma, comes in contact with this stigma also. But this stigma is sterile.
Germination.
Not happening. But this stigma is good enough. Here the process of germination can happen. So now the concept of cross-pollination works out here. Understood? So what is meant by self-sterility? Self-sterility meaning though the flower is bisexual, by the look of the flower you can see how it is having the stigma. It is having the anther, everything is there, but why this flower is not giving rise to a seed? Because there is self-sterility in this flower. Either the stamen or the carpel is not capable of producing the male or the female gametes. That's the reason. Self-sterility. Next is we talk about the fourth condition, hercogamy. We talk about the fourth condition, hercogamy. What is hercogamy? Again, what are we studying? Conditions that favor cross-pollination. Now, in case of hercogamy, we may talk about the stigma of certain flowers. We talk about the stigma of certain flowers. Now this is the stigma and this is the anther. In certain flowers, what happens? The stigma would generally develop a hood-like structure, a membranous flap-like structure like this. Okay? So when we are talking about hercogamy, what happens? Quite a number of times, just over the stigma or at the site of the stigma, there is an extra membranous structure developing. So this anther, or if I talk about anther this side also, and now the pollen grain, chances of the pollen grain coming in contact with the stigma as it is much more reduced. No? So only few by chance may come in contact. So generally over the stigma there should be a large number of pollen coming in. Out of those also only few will start germinating. Now here what is happening? Because of that extra hood-like structure, barrier, because of the barrier-like structure, the coming of the pollen grain and coming in contact with the stigma is as it is reduced, so the chances of fertilization even becomes much lesser. So what will happen? But it is a bisexual flower. It is a bisexual flower.
Yes.
But because of this barrier, the chances of cross-pollination is reducing or self-pollination. Self-pollination is reducing. Maybe nearby that this particular anther, as it is releasing the pollen grain, maybe nearby it comes in contact with another stigma, and now it comes undergo, and now this pollen grain undergo the process of germination. So that, of course, it is a method of cross-pollination happening. What is hercogamy? A condition in flowers where the stigma is having an extra barrier-like structure preventing self-pollination, preventing the pollen coming in contact with the stigma.
So does all these make the chances of self-pollination zero?
Not zero, sometimes much lesser. Not zero, much lesser.
Sexuality it is zero.
Yes,
it is.
For unisexuality, of course, it is zero. There's no chance. But for bisexual flowers, what is happening? The chances are even more and more reduced. By chance, certain flowers can show self-pollination. By chance, sometimes. Yes.
Is the hood there for some other reason, or is it because to favor cross-pollination?
To favor cross-pollination, say, or when we are talking about the stigma, it is an abnormal growth also, you can understand. When we talk about, even in animals also, there are no so many extra growth in body parts and etc. like that. So plants also, they show like this, abnormal parts of the body, abnormal growth of the body. So this is an adaptation in many flowers.
Is that because of evolution?
Not evolution. This is just an extra, either we may generally it is mentioned as a defective growth also sometimes. Or certain biologists have considered that this is an adaptation itself which flowers show to prevent self-pollination. But more convincing is it is a defective growth. It may be a defective growth in certain extra growth. For some people, even for human also we see, some extra fingers are there and extra growth in the ear, etc. So it is just like that in a flower. The last is we talk about heterostyly. Now what is heterostyly? In the case of heterostyly, the condition is something like this. The fifth one that we talk about is heterostyly. Now what is heterostyly? Heterostyly is a condition, say suppose I talk about this type of a bisexual flower again. I talk about a bisexual flower. Now this bisexual flower, it has the ovary and ovule and everything there and the anther. So what is happening here, in case the anther is like this. This is the anther. This is one condition. What can be something else? The other condition would be something like this. Heterostyly. In each of these conditions, what is happening? Can you tell me? Here,
But the answer, if pollen is
The second case anthers can.
I'll tell you.
That's second.
See the first condition. In the first condition, what's happening? The anthers and the stigma. Anthers and stigma more or less should be at the same level. Then the chances of self-pollination is quite high. So here what's happening? The stigma is much taller. Anthers are shorter. So the pollen that disperses out and bursts out hardly would come in contact with the stigma. Very less, no? Chances are very less. Okay, here, what about this one? Here you may feel that here it is smaller, so it should generally come in contact, no? But in most of this class, the anthers are outwardly arranged there. If they are inwardly arranged, then as it is, chances are a bit high. So in most of these cases, that's why I have drawn also this way, the anthers are outwardly arranged. Okay, fine, I understand that even though they are outwardly, some of them may come in contact. So quite a number of them will fall down. Few only coming in. Sometimes they will of course undergo the process of self-pollination, but most of the time not. Because these pollen grains, quite a number of them they will get inside, and quite a number, since they are outwardly hanging, they will all get lost or carried by the wind. Or they may get lost, or they may get deposited on the surface of the leaf or the ground, etc. etc. So this mere wastage of the pollen. No, these are mere wastage of the pollen that we are talking about. So how is hercogamy and heterostyle different? Hercogamy, we are talking about an extra membranous structure. Heterostyle, we are talking about the differences in the height. We have been talking about dichogamy, and I said that dichogamy favors cross-pollination, remember? Now, if I have to talk about a concept of self-pollination, then with reference to this dichogamy, I should say, for self-pollination, then what is necessary? For self-pollination, homogamy is necessary.
Same time.
At the same time, the anther and the stamen, the carpel and the stamen develop. Differentiate between homogamy and dichogamy. What is homogamy? Anther and carpel dichogamy and different timing. No, different timing. So homogamy favors
Self-pollination.
dichogamy will always favor cross-pollination. Okay. Now, this is about the factors, the reasons which favor self-pollination and cross-pollination. Okay. Now here, two words that is how.
If one flower has multiple flowers.
Multiple factors. When we are talking about one particular flower, some flowers will show hercogamy, some flower in one particular species. Some flower may show hercogamy, some flower may also self-sterility.
The same flower.
Flowers of the same plant.
But
Not
in the same
flower only one factor. No, in the same flower only one factor. Different flowers of the same plant may show 2 or 3 reasons also. 2 or 3 reasons also. Now let us talk about 2 words, a pair of words here. We talk about a condition known as histogamy and chasmogamy. What is it? Clistogamy. What is clistogamy? With reference to self and cross pollination, again, let us understand. Chasmogamy. Chasmogamy. What is chasmogamous? Chasmogamous flowers are flowers which are bright and showy. Once mature, the petals will open up and the reproductive organs are exposed, the stamen and the carpel exposed, and they generally show self and cross both. No, bisexual I'm saying. I'm talking about bisexual. So think about China rose. Think about this China rose flower. The China rose flower has got big petals, bright color. Bright colored petals are there, big petals are there. Now these flowers will generally undergo the process of, now that they are mature, the stamen and the carpel mature, the petals will always open up. Something in simple English that we say blooming. The flower will open up, bloom. Now that the flower blooms up, and it's a big flower, conspicuous. Conspicuous flowers means big prominent flowers. Now that the flowers are blooming and opening up, what now next? The reproductive organs are exposed, the stigma and the anther all exposed. So now that the stigma and the anther exposed, yes, they may definitely show self-pollination and they may also increase the chances of cross-pollination. That is chasmogamy. What about clistogamy? These are small flowers. These are small flowers and the flowers are very close to the ground. These are small flowers I am saying, and the flowers are close to the ground. Inside these flowers, what's happening? The stamen and the carpel after a particular period of time is all mature. Is there anything known as blooming happening? Is the petals opening up? No, the petals are not opening up even if the flower is intermediate, fully mature. The stamen and the carpel fully mature. So now that the stamen and the carpel fully mature, the petals remain closed. Chances of self-pollination is high or cross-pollination. Self-pollination is much higher.
Much?
100%.
No, much higher, because when we are talking about, if it is sterile, then of course not. So when we are talking about this bisexual flower, chances of self-pollination is very high as compared. So cross-pollination, of course nothing, but is it necessary that this will definitely give rise to a fruit? No, not necessary. So what is the concept of clistogamy? Applicable for small flowers, applicable for flowers where the reproductive organs are mature, but then the flowers, the petals does not open up. So since the petals does not open up, this type of flower will always show self-pollination, cross-pollination as it is ruled out. Okay? Yes.
How do we differentiate whether the plant is in its bud stage or it is mature? If it is closed.
Unless and until when you get to see that a particular flower, there is always a tenure. There is always, you get to see a small bud. This bud, maximum in almost all the big flowers also, in a period of 2 to 3 days, they will bloom up. In the big flowers also, it is a bud. Today you get to see a bud. Petals all closed. Maximally in a period of 2 to 3 days, they will start, open up. But, and then another 3-4 days gone. 4 days gone and they are not opening up. And after 5th and 6th day, they shrivel and die out. So it is very clear that this is a clistogamous flower. The bud you saw, and on the 7th and the 8th day, you saw that the entire bud is wrinkling and shriveling and falling out.
Maybe it did not get the right conditions.
Every time, no. Not every time, not every flower, not every plant. No. So when we are talking about this particular condition, what is the difference between clistogamous and chasmogamous? Remember, that's a common question again. Chasmogamous flowers are those type of flowers where the flowers are bright and showy and the reproductive organs are exposed because the petals open up. And clistogamous, just the opposite. Can be?
Bloom. Can be that the bloom open up.
Blooming is the word I mentioned. So when we are talking about clistogamy and chasmogamy, the major two differences always to remember. Is that clear?
Clistogamy, why don't they open?
Why don't they open up? That is their adaptation. That is their adaptive feature of the plant.
Is it because they are
It is the adaptive
ground, so the ground?
Nothing to do like that. It is only an adaptive feature. Why the leaf of the mango is long and flat and why the leaf of the pine is needle shaped? That's an adaptation. Certain type of flower, certain type of leaf, certain type of branch, certain type of
smaller.
Generally, they are not bright, showy, big flowers. They are always small flowers. Reproductive organs. So, quite a number of times we feel that no, these flowers are small and they must have undergone the process of fertilization. But no, that is very much happening inside the plant, inside the flower only. So these are some of the words. All these words you will have to remember. Come to the next part, that is we talk about agents of pollination and what are their respective names. What are the agents of pollination? The respective names. What are some agents of pollination and the respective names and some features also we have to come across. So to understand the agents, what is some of the most common agents? Say suppose I talk about wind is the agent. The method of pollination is known as anemophily. And next is water is the agent. Then this is known as hydrophily. Then if insect the reason, the agent, then this would be termed as entomophily. And if now birds the reason, then this would be termed as ornithophily. Then if elephants the reason, then this is known as elephophily. Elephophily. And next is we are talking about, I think animals, it is mentioned in this book, just check. It can also be known as the concepts of zoophily, big animals when we are talking about. So when we are looking into these different, yes.
Ma'am, if the pollination of animals are not zoophily, then why elephants separate?
When we are talking about zoophily, that's a common word. This too specifically you have in your book. And all the animals, when we are talking about any type of an animals undergoing the process of pollination, can be considered as zoophily, which has got many categories. These are only two that you are studying. Like if I talk about bats, it is known as chiropterophily. Now it's different. Bats are also agents, major agents. Bats are also major agents. So chiropterophily. Now these are different words when we are talking about. This word perhaps is there, so we have to remember that. Now, when we are looking into the basic characteristics, read those characteristics there. Anemophily. Now read those characteristics one after the other. The first is, what is about the cat? Now these are basically give reason questions that you will be always asked. Look into those characteristics. The first one that we start with would be insect pollinated flowers. The flower will be termed as entomophilous. What is the flower known as? Entomophilous. Process is known as entomophily. Okay. Now features you see. What are some of the features? Read those features. No, you read for yourself. Quite a number of these we had discussed. Few I will take again. You read first. These are just repetitions of the characteristics that we had discussed. Read the major features, characteristics of insect pollinated flowers. Before the class, you should switch off your phone or put it at silent. Or what? Read the characteristics. Insect pollinated flowers. I will ask you questions. You go through, all of you go through this. What are some of the most important points? You take insect pollinated number 2. For Selena, I am talking about number 2. Usually bright color. Insect pollinated flowers are bright color. Give reason. What are you supposed to write? To attract the insects for the process of pollination. They emit scent and nectar. The reason is the same. Attract the agent. Scent and nectar. Even when we are talking about the scent and the nectar, remember, the color, remember. When we talk about the color, flowers we come across yellow also, yellow and then red and then pink. So these type of flowers are attracted by certain type of insects, or these type of colors attract certain type of insects. And when we talk about the blue and the purple and etc., these type of flowers attract another group of insects. It's not that every insect get attracted by every color, every scent. Every type of a color that we talk about, the orange and the pink and the red, these are certain colors which basically attract the different type of small birds, attract butterflies. But if I talk about the purple and the blue and these type of colors, they basically attract the bee and the wasp. So there are differences in that also. What type of fragrance? We don't see that any type of an agent in any type of a flower. Take the point there, number 5. Selena, the pollen grains are sticky. Give reason. Why the pollen grain need to be sticky? The pollen grain needs to be immediately get in contact with the body of the insect, the body hair of the insect, not the body hair. Take that point, number 5. Number 6, stigma need to be sticky. Why? The stigma is sticky so that it can come in contact with large number of pollen grain at one time. It is hairy, it is sticky, and it is with dents and grooves, depressions are there. So that the moment some pollen grain come by the gush of the air or anything, what will happen also, or if the insect come meandering and the insect body rubbing against all those pollen, maximum of them should not slide away. So that's the reason you have always come across. And do we ever draw the stigma something like this? No. If I have to draw the stigma, will I ever draw the stigma something like this? No, we don't draw the stigma. It is not like that actually. How is the stigma? The stigma is always like this. Why? So now that the pollen grain come, a number of them will get stuck, get trapped in those depressions and start the process of germination. Number 7, flowers need to be in clusters. Why? What would be the advantage if they are in clusters? Chances of fertilization, pollination, fertilization increases. So when we are talking about insect pollination, yes, clusters means in a bunch, big numbers of clusters. Clusters means a bunch. Clusters means a bunch, a number of them flowers. Clusters in simple English. What is the meaning of cluster? A number of them together. A number of them together. So, underline that word conspicuous. You see that word. Conspicuous means prominent, prominently big, prominently colored, like that. Now, this is about the, yes.
In the 6th point, it is written the stigma is sticky. It does not generally hang out of the.
Hang out, not necessary. Hang out is always a feature of wind pollination. When we are talking about hanging out, now in this case, the stigma, or if I am talking about the stigma, which point you are talking about?
6.
Number 6. The stigma. So how would the stigma be? Hang out means what? It is insect pollinated, no? So if it is insect pollinated and if the stigma is like this also, more or less aligned, not a problem because the butterfly or the wasp or the bee come here, drop the pollen. But if it is a wind pollinated flower, we quite a number of times would also see that the stigma quite a number of times would generally have a structure this way also. Hanging out at one side. The stigma may be hanging out at one side also like this. Hanging out at one side like this. This is also there. Why? Because now that the rush of the air and bringing the pollen, a number of them should get stuck to them because the stigma is also hairy and with dents. It is also hairy with dents, so it should get stuck with the pollen grains. So that is about, what did we talk about? We are talking about insect pollinated flowers and what are some of the characteristics of insect pollination. Come to the next one. We talk about the concept of insect pollination. In your book, where are the characteristics of insect pollination? Acha, zoophily for you, for your book, this word is important. So zoophily, what are the different types? So here chiropterophily is there for you, and malacophily is also there for you. Take a note of all these words. Chiropterophily is there for you, apart from the entomophily and anemophily. Chiropterophily means bats, and underline these words. Malacophily means snails. Overall, zoophily means by any type of it, animal, big, small, any type of animal. Your teacher did not teach all these things, so remember that. If it is there, you'll have to go through. It is there in the book, so mark the points which are there in your chapter. So that is about insect pollination. Now we move on to the concept of wind pollination. What is wind pollination? Known as anemophily. And the flower will be termed as anemophilous. What are some of the characteristics see there? If it is anemophilous, the flower will not have fragrance. No nectar also. No need of bright color also. No need of becoming showy also. All these features, no need. So can the plant save on nutrients? Yes,
Yes.
the plant can save on nutrients. See those points there? Number 2, very important. They are usually not bright color. They may be dull colored also, not a problem at all. Do not produce scent nectar. Now, number 4, very important. What is the special feature? Write one special feature for wind pollinated flowers. Stamens are long and hanging out. Something like that. When we are talking about long and hanging out, it will always be hanging outwards, not inwards. Long hanging out. Anthers are large, loosely attached. What is the meaning of large and loosely attached? Can you understand that this type of anther, they are hanging out and at the same time they are loosely attached. So loosely attached means what? The filament is definitely attached to the anther, but then they are not firmly attached. When it is firmly attached, any part of the plant when firmly attached with an adequate amount of the breeze or just by the moving or shaking by the insect, the plant parts doesn't break so easily. The plant parts does not easily break. But now there is a need that the pollen, the anther should be ruptured. Now there's a need that the anther should rupture and the pollen can come out. So now if I'm talking about that, if this is loosely attached, what will happen? The moment there is some breeze there, this will get detached. So I am talking about this particular anther. What would happen here? That if this is the anther, and what is the major feature we are understanding? The major feature that we are understanding is the anther is loosely attached and it is hanging outward. So if it is hanging outwardly and loosely attached, what will happen? The moment there is some rush of air, this has a tendency or a chance more to get detached from the filament or break open immediately. If the tissues are thicker and firm, then it will take a big force to break it. No? So that does not happen. With the little bit of minimal stroke also, they start breaking open. Quite a number of times the entire anther detaches, fall off into the ground also. Quite often that also happens. But at that time it is a base stage. But they should immediately burst open. Anthers, the pollen grain should all disperse in the air. We are talking about wind pollination. Look into the next number 6. Pollen is produced in large quantities. And number 7, very important. What is the feature of the pollen grain? Light, dry, smooth. What is the significance? Light, dry, smooth. Why light, dry? Because traveling long distances. If they are very heavy, then they'll fall on the ground, on the surface of the leaf. So that's a waste. So they are light, so that they can be carried by the air to long distances. And the last one, stigmas, feathery and hanging out. The stigma, feathery. Feathery means what? Something like the surface is. No, feathery here not only means soft, feathery here means some fibrous structure like which can get attached to the pollen very easily. Very easily. It is not a slopey thing that the pollen slides off. Not that way. So examples. Now the next class I will ask you to write examples also. So examples we have to remember. All these examples, minimum 2 to 3 examples in each category you have to remember. So we have completed with wind pollination. Read till there. All of you read till there. So that the next class we can complete with this. Now examples of pollination. Let me just give you this. You will read at home and come. This is self-study. This will not be taught in school in detail. Did they teach you this part in detail? We don't teach this actually in detail. Examples of pollination. What about other schools? Tell me. Insect pollinated, pea and maize, the process. Is it taught in detail?
No.
We never teach this in detail. If it is taught, you'll have to tell me. So you just read this part, the pea and the maize, the process is never asked. There are already so many important things that we focus on, so the process is generally not asked. So you will just go through. This is a basic process, how pollination happen in the pea and the maize. Okay. So read till this part of the whose book is this?
Mine.
अरे फोन किधर है मेरा?
अरे सॉरी ना, अरे सॉरी
हाँ
ना।
ठीक है भाई। कितना नंबर? अबे सब तो उसमें दिखा रहे लॉगरिथम्स करवाएंगे।
लॉगरिथम तो ओमिटेड है हमारा।
बोर्ड से ओमिटेड है हमारा।
10th को भी नहीं है।
10th को भी नहीं है।
लॉगरिथम जो
भाई बोर्ड होने वाला है तो
अबे हमारे बोर्ड से है।
अरे नहीं है। नाइन्थ नहीं है।
देखो है 28 चैप्टर्स।
ऐसा फंक्शन नहीं है
उसका
भाई।
बोर्ड नहीं है तो उसको पर बोर्ड है ना 28 चैप्टर्स तो
अबे नहीं है भाई। ये नहीं तो कहना था कि पूरी बुक आई। तो बुक आएगी पूरी। बुक तो नहीं उसको बोर्ड से लेते भाई। 9 10 11 पर चारों स्टैंडर्ड में आएगी।
11 पर आएगी।
11 पूरी बुक आती है।
फर्स्ट टर्म में तो नहीं आएगी।
नहीं देखो टर्म 1 में सारे अरे टर्म 2 में सब पूरा है। 8 स्टैंडर्ड तक ही चला। अब साइंस
मैं 9 पूरे बुक ज्योग्राफी में 20 चैप्टर्स।
मैथ्स का पूरा बुक ही आना चाहिए बस। मैथ्स का उल्टा इजी रहेगा ये सब नहीं है।
अबे ज्योग्राफी में 20 चैप्टर है।